Back in 1960, there was one children's show that was the biggest thing in America. A real beacon of good, clean fun. But, behind the bright lights and the silly comedy, there was a whole other story. One about ambition, addiction, and this unlikely collision between two performers who couldn't have been more different. So let's dive into the bittersweet, behind-the-scenes story of a true television icon.
Yeah, on screen, the Bobo the Clown Show was exactly what every parent wanted their kids to watch. But off screen, whoa, it was a totally different story. A producer's absolute nightmare. That wholesome image was just this incredibly fragile thing, held together by a frustrated alcoholic actor and the brilliant 6-year-old who was hired to save the whole show from him.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. It's 1960, and the Bobo the Clown Show is, well, it's starting to lose its magic. The ratings are slipping, so a new major sponsor, Q Toothpaste, comes into the picture. And they've got one big demand. Add a kid's sidekick to the show, to help sell more toothpaste.
And at the center of all this was the clown himself, Stu K. Now you gotta understand, Stu wasn't just some guy they found who could fit in a clown suit. No, this was a classically trained Shakespearean actor. And to him, playing Bobo was just humiliating, a tragic waste of his talent. He was deeply bitter about it, and he was drinking a lot, just to get through the day.
And then, walking right into this powder keg is Tommy E. He's this super bright, incredibly talented 6-year-old, and he's been cast as Bobo's new sidekick. His job? Charm the audience, bring the show back to life, and of course, sell a ton of Q toothpaste. For Stu, he wasn't a partner, he was an existential threat.
And you could feel the tension from day one. I mean, literally. On Tommy's very first day, the director asks the crew, has His Majesty arrived? And the associate producer's response, well, it tells you everything. She just says, yes, he is sleeping or passed out on the couch in the green room. Stu had apparently stumbled in around 2:30 in the morning and was completely unconscious.
So, this was never going to be just two people not getting along. No, this was a collision course. It was the raw, pure talent of a kid who hadn't been worn down by the world, smashing right into the deep-seated resentment of a veteran actor who felt like his soul was dying.
And Stu? He didn't even try to hide how he felt. Before they even had a single rehearsal, he's telling people that Tommy's going to be a total disaster. Just a kid who can't possibly remember his lines or handle the pressure. Just pure condescension. And you could just feel his own insecurity oozing out.
But then came the first rehearsal, and oh boy, things did not go the way Stu predicted. 6-year-old Tommy, he nailed every single one of his lines, perfectly, from memory. Meanwhile, Stu, the trained professional actor, was slurring his words, could barely stay awake, and literally needed to hold the script just to follow along. In an instant, the whole power dynamic just flipped.
And look, this wasn't just a single bad day. This thing festered. It got worse and worse over months. It started with Stu just being dismissive, but only 2 weeks later, he's marching into the producer's office demanding they fire the kid. And then, many months after that, all that resentment just boils over into this awful, nasty confrontation right there on the set.
Management, though, they were not having any of it. Since Tommy joined, the show's ratings were up a full 20%. The kid was a certified hit. The executive producer, a guy named Larry, he just laid it all out for Stu. He said, the kid stays. I think he threatens you. He's making you look bad. He saw right through him.
So you've got all this pressure building up. Stu's professional pride is just shattered. You just know something's got to give. And it did. It happened in the worst way imaginable. Live, on the air, with a studio audience packed with little kids.
The moment that broke him came during the Bobo Treasure Chest. It's this fun segment where kids from the audience could win prizes. But one young contestant, he wasn't happy with his prize, and he starts taunting Bobo. For Stu, who was already on a knife's edge, this was it. This was the final push.
And here's the play-by-play of the disaster. This little boy, Johnny, doesn't get what he wants, so he gets mad and he kicks Bobo, hard, right in the shin. And in that instant, Stu just snaps. The clown is gone. He grabs the kid, gets right in his face, nose to nose. The whole audience just gasps. Parents are horrified. They rush the stage, pulling their kids away, tearing at Bobo's costume. It was just total, absolute chaos.
The crew was scrambling, they slammed the commercial break button, but the damage is done. Stu is just left standing there all alone on a wrecked set. His costume is ripped, his makeup smeared all over his face, he's only wearing one shoe. It was a picture of complete and total public defeat.
So that's it, right? Career over. Disgraced. You'd think so. But in this moment of just utter humiliation, something truly incredible happened. It's this wild glimpse into how a crisis can strip away everything fake and show you who a person really is deep down. The artist that Stu had buried for all those years, he was about to make an appearance.
After that whole on-air nightmare, the sponsors at Cute Toothpaste, they laid down the law. From now on, Tommy was going to be the star of the commercials. He would get the opening lines. Bobo was being demoted to a sidekick on his very own show. And that was it. That was the final crushing blow to Stu's pride.
Now, to really get what happens next, you have to remember who this guy really was. I mean, before the cheap costume and the drinking, who was Stu K? This guy wasn't some nobody. He had serious credentials. He'd studied at the Royal Shakespeare Company in London, one of the best in the world. He came to America with big dreams of being a serious news anchor. Bobo the Clown wasn't just a job he didn't like, it was his personal rock bottom.
So when the producers gave him the news about the commercials, the whole crew just braced for another explosion. But that is not what they got. Instead, Stu, still in his torn, ridiculous clown costume, walked to the center of the stage, and with perfect diction and this heartbreaking emotion, he delivered Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy. The entire studio just went dead silent. They were all witnessing this moment of raw, breathtaking, tragic genius.
After that stunning moment, the story doesn't end with another bang. It ends with this incredibly quiet, powerful moment in the dark on that empty television studio set, a moment that would change everything.
Later that day, Stu is alone on the set, and Tommy comes and finds him. And this little 6-year-old boy looks up at this broken man and gives him the one thing nobody else could: validation. He tells him, "You are Bobo the Clown, and that character matters to many kids. That is something."
And hearing that from this little kid, it's like something in Stu just lets go. He reaches into his bag and he pulls out his most valuable possession, this beautiful, illustrated copy of Shakespeare's complete works, and he gives it to Tommy. He passes on the art that he truly loved to the one person who showed him a little bit of grace.
And then he does one more thing. He gives Tommy the star from his dressing room door, the one with the name Bobo printed on it. It was a total surrender, really. He was passing on both his artistic soul and his public face to the next generation.
As Stu walks off that set for the very last time, Tommy looks down at the book and the star in his hands, and he says one final thing. He doesn't say thanks, Stu. He says, thanks, Bobo. In the end, the kid got it. He saw the tragic man and he saw the beloved character, and with two simple words, he honored them both.